Okay. Hello, beautiful beings. I want to welcome you today to a new series that I've started called Innate Wisdom. And I actually have already done a few interviews, but I am saving those because this special guest is one of the most inspiring I've come across. So she's going to be the first one I share with you. I want to introduce you to someone that, if you've ever wanted to understand strength, you'll see it in this girl's power. And if you've ever wanted to understand inspiration, you will just see it in her attitude. So it was very important to me to bring her to you, and she has been courageous enough to join me. So I want to welcome the mighty warrior Faith today. And Faith, thanks for being the first one to share your innate wisdom with us. Are you ready to go?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. So, Faith, this is exciting because you really have an inspirational story. You've definitely been through a lot. I am struck by your attitude. And so, why don't you just take us back, as far back as you want to go to explain a few of the scenarios. I know it's been a long journey. So, you go to wherever you want to chat and tell us a little bit about what your last 18 years have entailed.
Sure, Kristy. Um, well, I've had 40 operations due to scoliosis, and yeah, just the last 18 years has been a lot.
I bet it has been a lot. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about even how early on your diagnosis was? And because I know that scoliosis can be picked up either really early, sometimes it can be missed, maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't even present early. And for a lot of people, it's really later on in life that it's detected. So tell us a bit about when it was apparent and kind of what had to happen so early on in your life.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I was born perfectly normal, and it started progressing from like a 0-degree curve to like a 90-degree curve, like in 2 months. So I was diagnosed at like 11 months old, not even 1 year old. And I had my first operation at almost 2 years old.
Wow.
So, um, yeah, scoliosis, you can get it at like a young age called early onset scoliosis, which is very rare, which I have. It's like a severe case. But most cases, people don't get diagnosed until they're 10 years old or 15.
Interesting. Now let's talk a little bit about what scoliosis actually is. Can you explain that a little, how
Yeah,
it
sure.
appears in the body?
Um, Scoliosis is a curvature. So there's two different types of curvatures which you can have. There's a C shape and there's an S shape. Mine is an S with like a little side curve at the end, which is for severe curvatures. I don't know, but like everyone's is different. Yeah, scoliosis. Uh, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about like what it feels like. So
Oh yeah. Okay.
we have
Right.
the
Sorry.
presentation. No, it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. So we can kind of see what you're talking about with this the spine curvature, and that
Yeah.
makes sense. So what does that
Um,
feel for you?
well, the curvature does progress. So you have to have like these operations uh with rods in your back to stop the curvature from progressing. So like I guess in your childhood, like if you have early onset scoliosis and your curvature is always like progressing while you're still growing, it does give you horrific pain.
Imagine.
Yeah. Um, with like growing pains and just pains where your curvature is still trying to grow with your growth. And yeah, so you've had to have operations like every 6 months to stabilize.
That's crazy. So basically you've had well, I guess on average, well, you've actually had more than 2 a year per year of your life.
Yeah,
Wow. And so you're having the surgeries to try and manage the pain and the
yeah,
direction everything's going, but I would imagine there's a lot of pain associated with the surgeries too.
yeah, there is,
And
which,
sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
there is a lot of pain, but you just have to kind of stay positive and look at the brighter side of things.
Right, which is why we really want to get talking to you today because
Yeah,
I think you really managed to do that. And it's not to say there aren't tough days, right? Because
yeah,
there's definitely days where, the pain will get the best of you. And
yeah,
even just the frustration of, and I would imagine even just the mental exhaustion of going through this all the time. And
yeah.
sure you have lots of appointments and specialists you have to
Yep.
see. So
Scoliosis does drain you emotionally, does create some baggage.
yes. Can you talk a little bit about how that feels sometimes? Because I know, we want to talk about what of an amazing positive attitude you have, but
Yeah.
it's probably also fair to explain when it does get you down, what that is like.
Yeah, sure. Well, whatever, like if you had early onset scoliosis, um, it's more of a severe case than most kids, where most kids with scoliosis is a very light curvature and they can still play a lot of sports, but they are still supposed to be cautious. Where severe cases like mine have to really watch out, where we can't really play sports because that could damage the spine or your neck or anything like that. The emotional baggage of it is watching kids your own age at school get to play all these sports and you feel like you're an outsider, like you can't really do anything about it and they judge you for it
Mm,
because they don't know your story and you don't know whether or not you should share it because a lot of kids your own age can be snobby or ruthless and they just walk away. So, yeah, just like just emotional uh stuff with scoliosis
and
on
sometimes
that.
it's even hard when you said you don't know whether to share it. Yeah, there's so many factors there because one, it's a bit to explain, right?
Yeah,
So, in short conversations, you probably don't even really have a chance to explain it. And
exactly.
then, yeah, sometimes there'll be judgment on the other side if they don't really understand. And so I really want to thank you for taking the time today because it is important that people do understand these things better. And so, what would you tell yourself, or how have you learned to cope with those situations and get past them so they didn't drag you down all the time?
Sure. Well, there's like many different types, like journaling or songwriting, going for walks in nature,
Nice.
um, listening to music. I don't know what other people like to do, but like just simple hobbies, I guess. Whatever you like. And I also, at a young age, I forgot this part. I was just thinking about it last night. Before a major operation, I would, uh, whenever I felt like I was struggling, I would look up to Bethany Hamilton's story and I would watch her movie. Um, because yeah, it doesn't matter how big or small um what you go through, you gotta find inspiration somewhere.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about her story.
Um, Bethany Hampton had a shark attack at 13 years old in 2003, the year before I was born. Uh, yeah, it's just she lost her left arm up to her shoulder, and I just find it very inspiring because she had some struggles in the hospital, and if she could have went through one operation and a surprise attack in one day, I just looked at it to, um, well, if she can do that, I can do all my other falling operations.
Good for you, Faith. That's amazing. And it's a big part of why I want to talk to you today because I do think when other people hear your story, they'll get the same inspiration from it and it will help them through the tough times. I do
Yeah,
I do always think so there's the saying that we're not necessarily born strong, that it's the storms that make us strong.
yeah,
I do think some people, especially in your case, because your challenges started so early, that I think you probably were born a little bit strong too.
yeah,
I also like to say, God doesn't give us anything we can't handle. So
yeah,
there was definitely something special about you from the very beginning. But if you were to say what it is about your personality and your characteristic that has helped you through, what would you give yourself credit for being just naturally that made you strong enough to handle all of this?
yeah, sure. I think staying positive, like staying joyful and true to yourself, even when you feel that negative pull inside, when you feel like you're never going to be good enough or you'll never find friends that will understand and stuff like that. But just stay true. And a lot of people struggle with being fake. Just be open with some people in your circle. Don't be open to everyone, but like you can be open to the people that you trust.
Really good advice. I love that. Yeah. And so you talked about the things you like to do. So is that kind of your best recommendation when you just feel like you're in a bad spot and you can't get out of it is go do those things that help or look for those
Yeah,
people that help. I know you have lived on a farm for many years.
yeah,
I'm guessing the animals and spending time with them was a big benefit to you.
yep. Actually, it was. We lived on a farm for 7 years now, and just being outside, sketching, and being around them and journaling just helps in nature. It brightens your mood, and listening to music. Just yeah, whenever you feel that darkness, just go outside for some fresh air.
Oh, I love it. So basically, I'm also hearing from you is just don't accept that darkness, right?
Yeah,
There's something to be done to help pull you out of it. And if you can even just take yourself there to where you enjoy things, that's awesome.
yeah,
It's interesting because we did a program not long ago where I was working with a lot of girls your age, and we were talking, and a lot of people, actually, a lot of adults say this too, where we struggle with esteem. And so we really wanted to look into it and say, like, what is esteem? We all say self esteem, but we don't really understand, what that means. And as we were pulling it apart, we realized like it has a lot to do with like how much value we think we have, what also we value in life. So when you're talking about all these things you love, those are the things that are valuable to you. And that, I think at the end of the day, they're really just things we love, right? You just said you
yeah,
love nature, you love the animals, you love sketching and playing music. And so if we go to those things, I think they also sometimes help us um, find our value. And I think it's really important to spend time looking for that as well, right? I think that it can be found in the things we love. And so, if I asked you, I'm going to ask you a really tough question because a lot of people get uncomfortable answering this. But what do you value most about you? Or what are some of the little things you value as you as a person, because I think it's important for us to be able to share the positive things about ourselves that we know are good attributes and traits that we can share with other people. And what would you say were some of your, aside from strength and information and inspiration, which are huge, but what are just some of your best qualities that you like to share with people?
Yeah, sure. I guess my personality, like I'm outgoing when I'm with people in my circle. Just yeah,
That's awesome. And I think knowing your mom a little bit, all you guys like to joke around and laugh a lot, right? So, how important do you think laughter and joy are in not only healing, but just in everyday life?
yeah,
Pretty
I
important.
totally agree.
Yeah. I think you come by it honestly, but I've even noticed in some of your Instagram posts that you have a great sense of humor. There was even one post you put about scoliosis that talks
Yeah,
about you wanted to be curvy.
yeah,
Do you remember that one?
yeah. It was just like a quote that I found. It was funny.
Yeah, it was, my what something about my dream was to be curvy. My hips said no, my chest said no, but my
Yeah,
spine said right on. I got you covered.
yeah,
So it's great to have a great attitude and find some laughter even in all the tough stuff. Um, I think one of the things I've noticed with you is, you know, you have the ability to embrace your uniqueness, um, find what is positive in it. Although there's definitely tough times and consistently tough times, you do find what's positive in it. But also, I think, you talk about, and at such a young age, you've really developed an ability to be who you really are, despite what other people might see or think, or and
yeah,
even if it's misconceptions, you're very true to yourself and comfortable being you. And if there's I think it feels like the majority of the population these days, we really struggle with that. And the truth is, we're all unique, right? Not one of us is
yeah,
the same. And I think, when we're trying to learn to love ourselves and find our value, it's actually hidden in our uniqueness. But we don't embrace our uniqueness enough to really find it. And so, if you could give any advice to people struggling to just be who they really are and share that and be open with people about who they really are, what would you say about it?
yeah. Sure. I would say just try to be yourself. I actually had had a friend that I just met last week at camp that was struggling last night, and I had to talk her out of some stuff. Um, I think it's just to be honest with yourself and with a friend that you feel comfortable with, or a person that you feel comfortable with, sharing about what you're going through, even if it like hurts yourself on the inside. It's good to get it out, either journaling or songwriting or just talking to that person that you trust the most.
Oh, that's awesome. And do you find that people probably share who they are with you a lot because you make it safe to do that by being who you really are?
I guess. I don't know. You would have to ask them that, but maybe.
I would think so. I think, the more honest and real we are about who we are, we give everybody else permission around us to embrace who they really are. And we've talked before about how sometimes people don't even notice their best traits because it's just who they are naturally. So I would say
Yeah.
that's a great example. You probably so many times in your past done that for people that you don't even realize because it's just who you are. And so I think probably the world should thank you for being real because you've given a gift to so many people along the way. And so I definitely see that as one of your great traits, but your inspiration is really what kind of gives me chills because, yes, it is the tough times, but even despite all that, and I would even say in amongst the pain some days, you still have this ability to try to help yourself look for what's positive.
Yeah.
And how do you think you do that? Like how if you're trying to it's probably hard for you because it's just who you are, but
Yeah.
if you try to explain how you consistently keep working on doing that, how would you try and explain that?
Honestly, um, it is hard when you are like physically and emotionally in pain, and pulling out yourself out of bed is a struggle some days, but you just have to go step by step, yourself uh take yourself um at the speed as like you can go.
Right. And we actually probably missed out on a few things because you were talking when you're talking about pulling yourself out of bed and the pain. Are there a lot of other physical things? I think you sort of mentioned memory can sometimes help.
Yeah,
So
memory can be an issue with all the radiation and all the anesthesia drugs that they gave you ever since you were like 2 years old, and the traumas that your body has gone through due to it.
so it's really not just the scoliosis. Sometimes there's side
Yeah,
effects from the treatments and stuff that
yeah,
then add on to all of it. So yeah, it's like you're probably constantly sort of dealing with new things too that you may not have anticipated before.
exactly. It's also a struggle in school because like you are studying for like this test, and then everything like leaves your brain like after 30 days or like the next week.
Right. Right. So
Yeah.
so how do you deal with all of that?
Writing stuff down like in cue cards or stuff, and making a schedule and do it like make sure you're writing it step by step.
So it sounds like every time you're encountered with new things, you just try to find solutions to work around them.
Yeah,
Good for you. That's probably a bit of a part-time job all in itself, just trying to deal with regular life and then develop new habits and routines at the same time.
yeah. And also getting out of bed is sometimes a struggle because like ever since my last operation, I have like this nerve damage in my left leg. So I like some days like I can walk like pretty much half of a town or something. Like I can go like I don't know 10 blocks or something, and then the other days I hardly can get out of like the front door.
Wow. So let's talk about that a little bit because that was your 40th surgery, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And so is it a long surgery? There's probably a bit of a lead up to it.
Yeah, there was all my other surgeries were lead ups to it, and we actually decided to take out my rods for 1 year and to see if I could grow more, and I did grow a couple more inches.
Wow.
And yeah, my last surgery was April 18th, 2018. And it was a hard surgery. It was like back to like there was two operations, so they would operate you for like, I don't know, 8 or 12 hours for the first one to prepare your back for like the rods, and then they would give you like a day's rest, and then they would go back in and put the rods in.
Wow. So that's a lot to undergo.
Yeah.
And so what does the forecast look like now medically for you? What's sort of the next steps?
Medically, I'm perfectly fine. That was my last fusion. Now it's just healing all the traumas from my last operation because it was brutal. I got some PTSD from it and just, yeah, taking it day by day.
Wow. So that's amazing that they've identified that PTSD can, be a result of some of this. And I mean, makes obvious sense for sure. So can you tell us a little bit about how that presented itself?
Yeah, sure. Well, I like for my last operation,
Yes.
uh,
Or anytime.
yeah, sure. Uh, PTS. I only just got PTSD from my last operation. This nurse in the hospital left me in pain for 6 whole days, and he only gave me pain medication at like the amount of a pain medication as a baby, and he gave me the pain medication that I was allergic to.
Oh.
Yeah. So basically my parents tried everything to like get in contact with the uh board of director of the ICU, but he was just hiding behind his desk and in his power. So my parents told them that it wasn't our first rodeo, and I was basically conscious but not conscious at the same time. So my one day when they tried to threaten my dad to leave, uh he came in. This is like one of my favorite stories. Came in bare feet with his shoes in his hands to and while my doctor was checking on my leg because they did uh severe nerve damage. But
Mm.
like uh so he came in, and my doctor is kind of like family to us. So my dad and him have like a bromance. So so he's like, "What's wrong with you?" Because like my dad is like with his shoes in his hands, barefoot, and he's like, they tried to get me out of the hospital. So my doctor is like, huh? So like my dad explained furthermore about how they like left me in pain and stuff and give me the one medication that I was sensitive to. So uh my doctor went on a rant and got me to his floor, and they jerked me up so much that I started hallucinating. And most of the hallucinations were good, except for one night where I dreamt about knives and blood and shattered glass, and it just staples in my parents' face. It was just, yeah, anything that you could basically imagine terrible.
Wow. That would be so scary.
Yeah, and then when I gained consciousness, my parents told me everything, and uh, I had to do physiotherapy right away, and I really wanted to get out of the hospital, so I basically set a goal for myself into learn how to walk as soon as I could, just like little steps at a time for so I could get out. So just yeah.
Good for you. So you just kept looking ahead, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't really look at the whole big picture of where you gotta go. You gotta pay attention to the next step, like you just said, but
Yeah.
you keep moving in that direction. How
Yeah.
happy are you to have people like your mom and dad in your corner?
Um, happy, and I'm happy that I have so many people that love me, like so many fake uh adopted grandparents that have adopted me as their own, and
Oh.
yeah,
Well, that's certainly credit to who you are and your personality because it definitely shines through, and it's hard not to fall in love with you the first second that someone meets you. So that's awesome. So you were, I keep talking about this Facebook post you did. Now,
yeah,
your Facebook account was hacked, so we can't even share it with everybody. But and you were definitely
yeah,
talking about who being who you are, and we touched on that, but it was very inspirational, and it was a lot about, kind of just looking at the good side of things and finding the inspiration. And so if you could kind of summarize a message you would like to give to people about, you know, looking ahead and looking on the good side of things and pushing
yeah,
through
sure.
when things are tough. Can you try and summarize any of what that message might have been?
Yeah, well, all my life, I would always go on a banter, like, I would wanna share my story, but, like, scared to share my story because of what people would think and just how the world is nowadays. But, this year, I'm very much ready to talk about it, and I wanna make other people comfortable that either they're going through a lot with like a different diagnosis, or if they have the same diagnosis and they're still going through a lot with one or two operations. It doesn't have matter how small or big you're going through something. It just matters on, yeah, the emotional side. So I posted that because it was the beginning of June, which is scoliosis month. And I just felt inspired in not being quiet anymore. And I felt like I needed to share about my life story and just be inspirational and find memes that joked about scoliosis, but talked about scoliosis also.
That's awesome. And that's why we're grateful that you're here today to share the message that way too. I think especially with the way the world is now and
Yeah,
with all that, challenges we all have through life, it's not ironic when I say the world needs a little more faith.
yeah,
And I think the world needs a little more of you, Faith, because
yeah.
you're exactly what we need to get a great perspective on things. And so I hope that you look for more opportunities. Maybe you need to start your own YouTube channel so you can share a little more faith with the world.
That's actually what my mom and I was thinking, but like she asked me if I could talk to you about it, like if what your thoughts were on that. We're
Well,
in the process of moving to Panama. So like my mom is thinking like of starting a YouTube channel there or starting a YouTube channel now.
Well, I say the sooner the better. And
Yeah,
how exciting will it be for us to also see you when you're in Panama? So I just think there's so much to that we would love to hear and see from you. And I definitely think you have a very magical message to share with the world. So, even the little bit I do on YouTube, it's intimidating for sure. It's
yeah,
hard to share who you are at a greater scale than we're used to. But it's very inspiring when I find people like you because it makes what I'm trying to do seem all worth it because your message needs to be shared. So I think you'll find that people will be so excited to see you and hear from you that it will seem like it's worth it very quickly. So I really encourage you. There's definitely something special and magical about you and your message, Faith. So
yeah.
we all need a little more faith for sure. So yes, you're moving to Panama, but what does the future hold for you in general, aside from a big move ahead?
Honestly, I don't know what my future brings. I think it's gonna be a step-by-step process. But I do know that once I get to Canada, I want to enjoy the nature, um, the rainforest and all the birds and going for walks on the beach and getting a job and enjoy my last year of high school.
And so
So
you've one more year of high school there?
yeah,
Oh, exciting. Well, I think I like when you keep saying too about taking in, all the good things around you. You
yeah,
clearly do that, which is sort of that mindfulness and presence that a lot of us miss in this busy world. And
yeah,
also just to take everything one step at a time, because sometimes if we're worrying about too far ahead, we miss all that's good, right in front of us. So
exactly.
that must be why you are able to take it all in and have so much gratitude for it. So I could talk to you all day, Faith, and I would love to, but mostly I just want to, well, one, thank you very much for doing this, because I know this is nerve wracking for people. And I know that you just really are the pure epitome of a young warrior. And I think it's such a perfect example for people your age, and as well as our much older crowd like me. But if there was one little message you wanted to leave people with, no matter what their age, do you have an idea of what you think it would be?
Yeah, sure. Just stay open, stay true to yourself, stay positive, even when you feel like it's a rainy day and there's a dark cloud above you and you just want to hide under your covers in your bed and don't want to talk to anyone. Just sitting on a front porch or sitting on the lawn just brightens your day.
That's so beautiful. I don't even want to add anything more to that, because that's just a perfect way to end it. Thanks for joining us. And we all look forward to hearing more from you.
No problem.